GWATA TV gives you a first look at North Central Washington's business news. You'll hear from our local business, tech, and education companies as Jenny discusses hot topics and current events with some of the best innovators and pioneers in North Central Washington.
Hello, North Central Washington, and welcome to GWATA TV. I'm your host, Jenny Rojanasthien, and I'm so excited to be in the studio with you today. I have invited Dan Paquette, president of Key Methods, to come on air to talk about his company, cybersecurity, and some advice for all of us, especially business owners, in this COVID era we're navigating. Stay tuned, we'll be right back on air. Welcome back to GWATA TV. I'd like to introduce our guest for today's episode, Dan Paquette, president of Key Methods. Welcome to the show.
Why, thank you. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I am really excited for the chance to sit down with you. One, we've not gotten to catch up in quite a while. But Dan is responsible for why I'm here at GWATA. He was the president at GWATA back in 2015 and brought me on board to the team. So we had a chance to work together in my beginning days at GWATA.
Very good. You stole my thunder. I actually was going to fit that in somewhere. So that's great. No, yeah. I was going to say one of the best things that happened to GWATA, so I'll give you that too.
Well,
so.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been a lot of fun over the years, and obviously we've grown and been able to do more programs like this TV show, where I love to highlight local entrepreneurs and, of course, especially in tech. So let's talk a little bit, before we get to Key Methods, for the audience who may not know you, a little bit about your background, Dan.
Yeah, so I'm a local guy. So I grew up in Cashmere for the most part, graduated from Cashmere, went to work for a machine shop and got kind of my technical chops there doing NC programming. So like driving the little bits around the metal, to make parts and such. So that's where I got a lot of my technology. And then worked for Pacific Aerospace and Electronics and helped them implement their ERP systems and a lot of the technology there. Moved on and worked for an ERP software company over in Seattle, and eventually acquired it and brought it over to Wenatchee and coupled up with some other great companies in town, and that's kind of where we got Key Methods. Okay,
so Key Methods, let's talk a little about what does Key Methods do?
So technically they call us an MSP, we're a managed service provider, but I boil it down to taking care of end users, their devices, their data, and their software applications. And we put it all together locally in the cloud, however it needs to be done.
And talk to us a little bit about who needs an MSP? Who needs a company like Key Methods?
Yeah, we focus primarily on small business, so we don't do any residential work, although I know it's really hard for people to get good quality IT support, at home too, but we focus in on small business. And pretty much anybody that's got, we even have small business with one person. So if it's business in nature, Key Methods is probably a good choice.
Managed IT services has really grown over the years. And obviously, as technology has changed, so is the support needed around it. I know you do. We're going to talk a little bit about cloud-based. Tell us about that line of business and who needs cloud-based services?
Well, it's interesting because just about everybody, even residential people now, are doing something in the cloud. So it's not this foreign thing that we've never heard of before. But if we're looking at cloud for business, we're looking at things like Teams and SharePoint and OneDrive and virtual desktops and all this kind of stuff to really leverage the technology. So it's beyond just being able to order it online and use it. It's really, how do I get the consulting that goes around it to make it fit my business needs?
With, our phones, everything's going up into the cloud and being stored, but oftentimes, especially maybe some traditional brick and mortar or retail businesses, have still been operating on desktop systems where they're just saving. What's some of the pitfalls in staying with kind of that old school approach and just keeping your data on devices?
Yeah, and still today we've got probably quite a few people that still have equipment that they've obviously invested money into. You don't want to get rid of it, but as operating systems go by the wayside, Microsoft's got their Windows 10. You're not seeing us go from XP to Windows 8 to Windows 10. There's not going to be a Windows 12, 14, 15, right? This is kind of it. So they're kind of obsoleting a lot of these things. and pushing them into the cloud. Just like the Exchange server, our email, you almost never see anybody that can afford or have a email system of their own internally, just because it's so expensive. It's extremely difficult to maintain from a security perspective. So yeah, generally people are using their technology until it comes time to upgrade or replace, and almost always it's moving to the cloud at that point in time.
And I imagine too, you see or work with clients who've maybe waited until it was too late, right?
Yep.
They've had some sort of business disruption or device malfunction, and then they've lost precious data, right?
Yep.
So especially in times like now, what is your advice to business owners who maybe haven't made the step into managed IT services? They're operating just fine, trying to manage their own technology.
Yeah, I would probably say the biggest thing to do is to plan for the future. You know that it's coming, so how are you going to migrate there? One of the things that we do is generally start with a cloud-based backup. So if you're taking your data that could be possibly at risk, the equipment that could be at risk, putting it on some sort of a device that's putting into the cloud, if you have a local failure, you roll over to the cloud and you just keep on running, and now I'm cloud-based. But you can still utilize your local environment until you get to that point. So that's a really, really good call there, is to just plan that migration process.
So kind of that first step. So you don't have to come in and all of a sudden be tech savvy and have everything managed by a professional.
Yep. Yeah, most people start with their email, then their file storage, then they go to applications, and then they move their desktops, Windows virtual desktops. Kind of almost in that order.
And then I imagine too, as you build on these layers, you're also empowering people to work easily from home in terms of they can tap into their network computer at home or remote working. How does that play in now with the COVID?
Yeah, there's a couple of ways to get to your devices. One is just to do a remote access session where it's like you manipulating the keyboard and mouse remotely. There's really no data going back and forth. You can secure that connection, and that's a really good, fast way to approach. It's included with all of our service plans at Key Methods. The other ways to do what are called VPNs, where you're actually creating kind of a tunnel between your home and the office. And that works to some degree, but you have to think about all of the risks that you're exposing from home out to the office. And then lastly, it's that virtual desktop where the entire desktop is sitting in the cloud. And that's by far the most secure and probably going to be the way of the future, where pretty much all of us are going to end up.
Now, in the next segment, we're really going to dive into some cybersecurity, because that is really the hot topic in technology. We even have October Cybersecurity Month now, right?
Yep.
Because that's constantly evolving at all levels. But before we go there, I just want to highlight a little bit more about Key Methods. So you have a physical location where?
We are at the end of the 5th Street at the roundabout right on the river. So it's Riverfront Center, so it's a great place to be located. So that's where we're physically located, but right now we're all over the place. We also have offices over in Seattle, so we do have some business over in the Seattle area, but yeah, our technicians right now, we're like everybody else. We've got probably most everybody working from home.
So you're serving clients on both sides of the
mountains. Yeah.
The mountains. You also were recently honored with a pretty prestigious award. I want to make sure I get this right. You're named one of the world's premier managed service providers by the 2020 annual Channel Futures MSP 501 rankings. Tell us about that award, and congratulations.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so this was a global competition. Tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so we have a value at Key Methods for Be the Best. That's one of our corporate culture statements, and we constantly are competing, so it's in our blood. So to win that was great because it's, like I said, not just Washington State, but it was worldwide. You have to submit basically the tool sets and things that you use, the processes that you use, financials, certifications. I mean, it's a pretty in-depth, application to even do it. So a lot of people might not go through the process. We have been on that for, I think, the last 3 or 4 years. But we've been trying to get on that list for many years before that. So we're real happy with that.
Striving for excellence.
Exactly.
I love that. And what I also love about that highlight, it's something we know at GWATA. that we have world-class technology and technology experts in North Central Washington. It's one of the things that makes us special. You don't have to be a major metropolitan to have the expertise we have here.
Correct.
Yeah, so this award just another highlight of that for Key Methods. Well, we need to head out to a commercial break, but when we come back, we'll still be on air with Dan. We're going to go into cybersecurity and a bit more, so stay tuned. Welcome back to GWATA TV. We've been on air with Dan Paquette, president of Key Methods, talking about your organization and your services. Let's go into the COVID aspect, which is very real for all of us. What has changed for your company and your clients since COVID?
Yeah, it's so real. I've got my mask on.
I know, right?
Can't even see me. I smile all the time. You can't even see it. Yeah, the whole COVID thing for Key Methods really solidified and put into play all the business continuity planning and technology investments that we had put in play for a very long time. But it was always just in case. And when COVID came around, it was like, okay, guys, work from home just like you have done when you were sick, and just like you've done when we have had evacuations, at our building, and but we're going to be doing it for a while. So that's probably the biggest thing, was just leveraging the technology that was in play. I
imagine that you are uniquely set up to go remote, because that is your expertise in navigating these technology systems. Now, what about for your clients? What's the transition been for them?
Well, it's an interesting mix, because Key Methods, one of our slogans is we don't sell anything to anybody that we don't use ourselves. So many of our clients had the exact same setup that we have at our office. Many of them, it was a kind of a ho-hum event. They just kind of chose when they were going to go home and work with their cloud-based phones, cloud-based computers, cloud-based apps, cloud-based data. Everything was ready to roll. Other clients that maybe hadn't progressed quite that far, because like we said, everybody has a journey. For those that needed to work from home, we did have our remote access so they could access PCs, but I was really surprised to find out how many people don't have a PC at home. I mean, I just kind of thought that was a thing, but we've gotten to tablets and phones and other types of things. So we had a lot of people that physically had to take equipment out of offices and bring them home and try to set them up at home. And of course, we can't go to their homes with all the COVID stuff that's going on. So it was very difficult to kind of walk a user through, plug this cord in here, plug this cord in there. They're plugging it into the phone jack. They, they said they don't understand. They're wrapping wires around each other. So that was probably one of the harder things, was just helping people get physically set up. But once they got physically set up, the technology side was pretty straightforward.
We were talking about off air, technology is, well, depending on the type, relatively accessible. Mm-hmm. Anyone can purchase technology services, products. But it's another thing to be able to use it,
right,
and to know how to use it effectively. And that's what you really make a mark on as a company, right? Is that training piece with your clients. Mm-hmm. So.
And again, one of the reasons that is so easy for us is we use everything that we sell. So we just bring people into our office. Now we bring them in on a Teams meeting, and we just show them, literally, here's how I have my Microsoft Teams set up, my SharePoint set up, my voice system set up. Here's how I do the things that make me successful every day, and they can just emulate it. And then we can talk about what's unique to your business, and then modify things for the way that they want them. But definitely, there's too many people that think they can just go. I mean, I see people buying from phone companies, cable companies, copy companies. I mean, you can add licensing on to just about any bill you probably get in the mail these days. But being able to actually go in and configure your users and your groups and your security and your backups and all the things that someday something's going to happen, you're going to go, oh man, I wish I would have had somebody help me set that up, because I just kind of winged it and now I'm paying for it.
And speaking of security, cybersecurity is a huge risk on an individual level, but even more so as a business owner. Mm-hmm. And I imagine that with that connection between having data out of offices, it's even higher. What are some of the trends that you've seen in cybersecurity as far as the risks that are out there and how you navigate those for clients?
Yeah, well, small business has always been a target. And now in this COVID era, we're even a huger target, because people know that we're all accessing stuff from home and we're mixing personal devices and business devices. So there's definitely an opening there for bad guys to get in. So the trends that I'm seeing now are basically a lot of monitoring systems around your security. So we're not talking about like antivirus and things like that. We're talking about monitoring your logs, monitoring your usage, so that, you know, kind of our artificial intelligence, so to speak, it sees, hey, how come Jenny's like going into her mail at 3 o'clock at night from Taiwan when that's not a normal behavior? And why is she like deleting and encrypting a bunch of her stuff? That's not normal behavior. So right now, typically you will know when you've got a problem way too late because it's already done deal. So getting in front of that and monitoring it is really the trend.
You know, you struck a chord there, because I used to get my new computer and then downware my whatever application I was going to use to, you know, block all of that stuff, and then I figured I'm safe. I'm
good. Yep.
Right. I have my malware on the computer, and nothing is going to come in. But they come in now through phishing attacks and other services that it's through email.
Right. And I think you had it on here to talk about, but this whole concept of the dark web, you know, that's where if there is a breach, not even with your own company, but some other company, it exposes your username, probably your password. You likely use that same password to get into Microsoft Office 365, to get to your mail and your files. And it's a one and done thing. They don't just get in and encrypt. They get in and they sit there and they spy and they watch your behavior and they emulate you and they ask your, you know, accountant to cut checks and do all these kinds of things, and it looks like it's you. So it's very, very effective.
The password thing, I think we are all fatigued on changing our password, right? And then starting to have lists of your passwords. So why? But let's reinforce again. That's one of the easiest things we can all do to stay safe, right? Is just password protection.
Yeah, strong passwords, changing passwords regularly, and probably the other is two-factor authentication, making sure that when I go to log in, it's challenging and sending something to my phone, using, you know, YubiKeys and other kinds of devices to plug in to you know, validate who you are with a physical object. You know, those can't easily be overcome, you know, remotely.
A lot of that goes back into education. So do you guys work with companies to educate employees on and create policies?
Yep.
What does that look like?
I'm really glad you brought that up, because the biggest thing you can do for your company is to get cybersecurity awareness training. So we've got partners that we deal with that you basically sign up, go through all the videos, get certified, because that's your weakest link generally is your employees. So definitely training, and then helping with setting up those policies like you said. Is it okay to access your network from outside the United States? That's a huge one that a lot of people just like ignore. You know, it's like, why does that need to be open by default if you don't do business globally?
Like, I'm going to vacation in Mexico, so maybe I'm going to check in on email. Right. You should probably have a protocol around that.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and normally I would say keep it off until you need to, and then turn it on, because otherwise other people might be checking your email from Mexico.
Right. Also, this kind of spins off, we didn't talk about this, but getting on different Wi-Fi sources, right? Is that a big risk for people?
It is, and it kind of depends on how you're connecting. So, you know, this virtual desktop stuff, the reason I like it so much is everything that you do that has to do with technology is in one spot in a very secure data center. And all I've got to do is make sure that I can connect to it in a secure fashion over a, you know, encrypted tunnel, so to speak, and I'm golden. That's kind of the way we used to do IT a long time ago. You had walls around your place, all your stuff was inside, and you'd go inside and
it was
use
physically networked in.
Yeah, so having that set up is great.
Let's switch gears a little bit into Microsoft, because you guys are you work very closely with Microsoft. You're a certified partner, and you bring a lot of that technology to your clients. What's happening with Microsoft? I hear they're doing pretty well these days, first of all.
Yeah, so hopefully you got in on the stock when it was low.
Right.
But yes, Microsoft is investing heavily into collaboration software, Teams being the biggest. I'm sure everybody's watched the whole Teams and Zoom competition, and Microsoft continues to add the ability to have bigger galleries and, you know, raise your hand and backgrounds and all the stuff that people kind of liked with Zoom. But it incorporates super nicely with your SharePoint and your OneDrive and your, you know, all of your applications. So it's if you're a Microsoft house in every other way, you probably should be trying to leverage all that kind of stuff too with Teams and collaboration software.
That's good to know, because I think when the pandemic first hit, we all just said Zoom. That was like, right? And now Zoom fatigue is the catchword. People are getting fatigued on Zoom. Teams, I learned this today from you, so I'm going to have to try it out, is doing some things that are making it a little more interactive. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of options. Click around, right mouse click the little dots, and you can see different seating arrangements and different layouts for the galleries and those kinds of things. You can use it on multiple screens. So I know one of the things that's very difficult is trying to do a presentation like this, and then your presentation's up there, but you can't see anybody's faces anymore. So, use a second screen, throw one up on one screen so you can be sharing, much like we're doing with the monitor right now, right? So just learn how to use it.
It's very true that when you do a presentation these days, and I've done that, and you can't see anyone, so you just feel like you're talking to the screen. You have no response or feedback to see how it's landing. Are you funny? Are you not? Right?
Yeah, so I'm sure I shared with you, I facilitate peer groups that do technology, and so I actually received a lot of training on how to position your monitor at eye level, how to move certain ways, those kinds of things. So there's a lot to giving that presentation. There's an art and a finesse. Yes.
It sounds like in this new space we're navigating. Well, if someone wanted to learn more about key methods or potentially look at bringing you onto their business or site, how would they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Definitely just go to keymethods.com. Our website's probably the best, or talk to a lot of people in the community. I was watching on your monitor out there all the different spots that you've done on GWATA TV, and I just love going, that's one of our clients. We help them do that. I see the innovator awards and stuff for GWATA, and it's like, they're our company that we do business with. We help them get that way. So there's a lot of people in the Valley that know who we are as well, that just ask them about key methods.
That's awesome. Well, Dan, thank you for coming on air with me today. It was so good to see you in person.
Yes.
So this rare thing that we get to do here on GWATA TV.
Yes. And I do have a smile under here, I promise.
Yeah, no, we smile with our eyes now, right? Smile with our eyes. Well, thanks again for coming on air. Definitely check out Key Methods and their full team. It's such a great group that you work with over there. That concludes today's episode. So we'll let you go for now. Join us back here next week.
Since 1999, GWATA has served as North Central Washington's Tech Alliance. As a 501c3, our mission is to bring people and technology resources together to create a thriving community. Through our work, we aim to inspire, engage, and connect.